Hey Village, happy Friday. I am Tasha Ray and I am the host of Red Lipstick Conversations. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And so today we are going to be taking a deep dive about the topic emotional load. But before we go any further, I want to announce something that I am excited about. So I have a new partnership with this brand, and the brand is called Dr. Harness Explore Your Desires. So I'm not going to open this little package, but suffice to say, it is attire that is evening wear, and I am super excited about it because it arrived in time for that particular time of the year that some look forward to and others despise, and I'm talking about Valentine's Day. So there's still time for you to place your order, and I will be letting you know more about this upcoming partnership that I have. And yeah, so that is that. Moving on, first of all, I want to just say, like I said, thank you for taking the time to tap in with me today, wherever you might be streaming, whether that is Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Thank you for your time and welcome. And hey, cousin, thank you for taking time to tap in, Todd. So today, emotional load. I am going to start with some definitions. Emotional load is the stress of being responsible for the happiness and well-being of others in a relationship or household. It can also refer to the effort required to manage emotions in the workplace. Examples of emotional load. Being the one to make all of the doctor's appointments, not just making the appointments, but arranging transportation, figuring out where a parking garage is in relationship to the doctor's office, or if riding the train is best, and if so, are there elevators on the stops that you need to take. All of this are things that I need to negotiate whenever I take my daughter, who is 5 years old, anywhere around the city. It is an never-ending acrobatic act that I am performing in my brain every day just to get from point A to point B. Moving on, understanding that this is just one aspect of one day that has to be negotiated. And then as a single mom, every day without fail, every meal from breakfast to dinner, bath time, putting her clothes on, making sure her backpack is packed on the correct day for her extracurricular activities. And for this quarter, it is soccer and dance, and then keeping on top of the holidays and teacher continued education trainings, which is just code for a day that I don't have the ability to get paid because it's only myself. And the list goes on and on. Now, to the untrained ear, it might seem like I am complaining or painting myself to be a victim. I'm doing neither. My aim in listing these responsibilities is to highlight the fact that unless I do it, whether it is getting done or if it's going to be scheduled, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done at all. And this right here is the culprit of the emotional load that I just defined earlier in the podcast. It is the constant worry and anxious feeling that you might have forgotten to do something that was on a to-do list. So let's define some more terms. Worry is defined as giving way to anxiety or unease, allowing one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. A state of anxiety or an uncertainty over actual or potential problems. Then anxiety is defined as the intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. which can cause in the body fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired might also accompany those that are experiencing anxiety. Then going on to define what exactly is stress. Stress is a natural response to a challenge or demand that can cause physical or mental tension. It can be a feeling of worry, anger, and frustration. Now, all of these things, they might appear to have a lot in common with one another, and that is kind of on purpose. And I think that oftentimes, I know for myself, when I am in the midst of my day and I feel like I've done all that I can do, meaning that I planned my day to the T, meaning I communicated with all of those people that I knew that I was going to be working with. When I made sure that my daughter got to where she needed to go, when I make sure that I got to where I needed to go, and then still life happens, as the kids love to say. It is that unknown and that feeling of, well, what happens if? And to be honest, the if doesn't always happen. However, the continual stress and worry that happens internally continues regardless to if you actually end up going through whatever difficulty. So today is one of those days where I planned everything that I needed to do for today to the letter. However, things that have nothing to do with me impacted how my day is going because I don't live in a bubble. I don't live in an island. And so therefore, even if I do all of the planning, there are still going to be outside influences as it pertains to how I'm going to be able to accomplish all that I have set out. And so what I have found in speaking with other moms and women, and while I am going to be focusing on the experiences of moms and women, mainly because I am a woman and I am a mom, it isn't to say that men don't often experience some level of emotional load themselves. But for the purposes of this podcast, I am speaking specifically to women. But hopefully, if there are men in the audience, and since I see there are some on Instagram and on various other platforms, then my hope is that you will have a greater level of empathy, whether it is for your significant other, whether it's for your sister, mother, or whomever is in your life. Hopefully, what I am going to be uncovering and sharing in this episode will be information that will help you to either play a different role or maybe even a bigger role in the lives of the women that you care about. So I want to draw your attention to a book that I have brought in studio today. And this book right here is entitled The Emotional Load and Other Invisible Stuff. Now, and it is by the author Emma. When I saw this at the bookstore, first of all, I am always in the young adults section, even though I am in my 40s comfortably at this point. And I don't know, it's just something about a new graphic novel that I am just always excited to dive into. I don't know if it's because I get to, for a moment, escape all of that's going on in my brain on any given day. But when I saw this book, Emotional Load, at the bookstore, I could not resist. And I sat down on the floor right there in the bookstore and started to read. And as I did so, apparently time ticked by without me being aware, because that's what happens when you're having a great time. Anyway, someone came to tap me on my shoulder and told me that if I was going to make a purchase, I needed to do so because the store was going to close. So in one setting, I found myself over halfway through the book. And so that should tell you how captivating I found the content to be. And the reason why I found the content to be so relatable was, first of all, a lot of the things that I had been experiencing in my life as a woman and as a mom I had never seen, first of all, in a book, and I hadn't seen it illustrated. So the fact that this book right here is, as you can see, illustrated, and they have gone through great lengths to have every to have every to have every different demographic explained. Hold on one second. To have every single type as it pertains to wherever you find yourself on the spectrum of gender. Everyone is covered in this book. And as I was trying to flip through the book to show you all, I just love all of the graphics that the author made sure to be very inclusive. And one of the things that I also enjoy about the book is that, like I said, a lot that I had experienced in my life until reading this book, I felt alone. And one of the points of having the platforms that I do, whether it is this podcast, Red Lipstick Conversations, or Womanhood Decoded, my whole point is that I hope to be able to create a community, and so that people, wherever they are in their experience, that they don't feel like they're going through whatever it is alone. And that, especially during this time of year, winter, is when people tend to be navigating the most as it pertains to depression and things of that nature. And so, again, when I was looking through the book, I was just like, okay, first of all, okay, I'm not by myself, and other people have experienced this. Again, thank you for taking the time to tap in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I see you and I appreciate you. And I felt like, okay, not only am I not by myself, but in the book, there are various statistics that are quoted in various different studies. So it's not just for quote unquote entertainment purposes, even though it is packaged in a very entertaining way. I'm pausing because sometimes I think that it's necessary to pause, especially if you find yourself in the midst of a feeling of being anxious, which I just found myself feeling just now because apparently I had moved away from the microphone and a lot was going on in studio. Hopefully you're able to see that I am a human. And like I said, even if I do everything that I can humanly do to prepare, there is still room for error and there's still room for humanity. And I think that the whole purpose of exploring the topic of emotional load is to, again, let other people know that you're not the only person that is navigating this space. I think when we are exploring the topics of emotional load, mental health, hidden disabilities, a lot of the time, if it is not something that is quantifiable or something that you can pick up and see, the idea is that it's not that bad or it's not that heavy. But whenever we hear the very sad and traumatic stories, especially as it pertains to loss of life connected to suicide, for example, there's always this idea of, well, they seemed like everything was fine, or they were often the life of the party. But as I have expressed on other episodes of my podcast, a lot of the times when it pertains to people of color, we don't oftentimes present the same as other people do when they are navigating emotional difficulty. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that when we are children, we are taught that whatever it is that we are navigating internally is something that needs to be compartmentalized. And I say that because I know, particularly as a girl, I heard over and over this saying of what happens in this house stays in this house. And as a woman, I still hear that in my mind. And so even though to you all listening, it might seem like it's easy for me to explore and to dive deep into these topics, I want you to know that I'm pushing through a lot of emotional trauma that I have attempted to navigate through. And it is not easy, but I feel that it's necessary because, again, so much in my life I dealt with in isolation, and not even just in my life, but watching the lives of other women that I had contact, whether they were my teachers or relatives or people in the community. I oftentimes saw women struggling. And it's not to say that I didn't notice men were struggling and I didn't notice the difficulties of others. But again, like I said, I am speaking from the perspective of a female because that is my lived experience. And so when I do so, I am not trying to take away the difficulties and or the experiences of the other gender or genders, depending on how you look at the spectrum of gender. I am just, again, talking from my perspective. And I feel like when things are visible, for example, if you see someone in a wheelchair, for example, it's easy to understand, okay, that person might need some extra support or assistance when they are trying to navigate, for example, doors. But when you are talking about the emotional load and or the other invisible struggles that people have, you may not know how you can support people in a moment of difficulty. So what I want to do next is I want to give some tips for how to be of assistance. First of all, I think a good place to start is empathy and understanding that just because a situation isn't a situation to you or isn't a difficult topic for you doesn't mean that it isn't triggering to another person, because again, we only see what people allow us to see a lot of the times. And so one tip that I have for you is to ask open-ended questions. So instead of asking questions like, are you okay? Which will give the person that you're asking the opportunity to say yes or no, you might want to ask or frame a question like, is there something that I can do to make your day easier or to make this moment easier? And I think that gives the person that you are asking, that acknowledges that you see or you're acknowledging that there is difficulty or there might be difficulty, but in doing so, you're giving them the opportunity to not just quickly say yes or no. And I think that, again, this idea of uber independence and being able to stand alone and being able to be self-sufficient are things that we talk about a lot. And I think that it is important for us to realize that no matter what walk of life you come from, whether you've had an easy go or a difficult go of it, we all deal with feelings of insecurity. We all deal with feelings of feeling like we are by ourselves or all alone, or we all deal with feeling like everyone else has it together except for us. And I think that especially when I have read various different biographies, a lot of the times I am surprised to learn that someone that I look up to has dealt with emotional difficulty because, again, when you look at someone and they look like, again, they have it all together and they look like they're bigger than life, you don't look at those people as being a person who has had to navigate challenges. And I think, like I was talking about on another podcast, navigating difficulty gives you the opportunity to strengthen parts of your personality and parts of your character that you wouldn't have to otherwise have to do if you didn't have to push through something. And I think the idea that some of us have it easier than others might be true, but at the same time, I want us to make sure that we are being empathetic to people in general, because again, some of us are better than others of us at covering up or putting on a mask. And when I say a mask, I'm talking about you might, for wherever you work, you may need to change how you speak, or you may need to hide an accent, or you may need to present yourself in a different way than you normally would around your family or peers because, again, you want to be employed. And in doing so, you recognize that just waking up and showing up how you woke up is not something that's going to keep you employed. And so the various different masks that we put on, and I think the older that we get, the easier it becomes to compartmentalize and or to put on a mask. And in doing so, unless we are intentional about recognizing that fact, you might find that you become more of your caricature or more of your mask personality takes on your personality or starts to replace your personality because, again, you are in character or in a particular form for an extended period of time. And again, all of this is connected to mental health, and it's connected to emotional load and the invisible burdens that a lot of us are carrying around that, again, you may not see. So another tip I have is active listening. Active listening, if you're not aware, is the ability to create a safe space so that rather than putting out an answer or thinking of a response, you are actually just listening for the purpose of understanding. And I know from my own experience, I have struggled with that, especially when it is a situation when it is a passionate moment. And I don't know if it's because I am a West Indian woman or a Black woman or just a woman in general. I tend to be spicy or passionate when I am expressing myself. And so some people may look at that passion and they might misinterpret it as me being angry or me being another negative emotion. But that is the inflection of my tone and my body language, I'm just hoping that what I'm communicating is being understood. And I think it is something that I have had to work hard at, and it's something that I continue to work hard at as it pertains to actively listening. Because I think when you care about someone and they care about you, outside of being understood, you want to be the person that is able to give some sort of relief, or you want to be the person that's able to provide an alternative or a solution. But what I am finding is not every situation, first of all, either even needs a solution. And sometimes, and I'm finding a lot of the times, people don't even want to hear a solution when they are in the midst of a situation. They oftentimes just want someone to listen to them. So, again, to summarize, I have given 2 steps, and I'm going to give one more step as it pertains to how to be a support to someone that is navigating the emotional load. And that is to just say that you are available, period. Even if that time that you are interacting with the person and you notice that they might be shutting down, sometimes just knowing that even if you don't have a solution right there in that moment doesn't mean that at another time you can't be available to hold space. And I think sometimes when we see someone in the midst of crisis, we want to just jump in right at that moment and assist at that moment. But sometimes even the person that's going through whatever it is they are navigating, even that person isn't able to either communicate what they need right at that moment, and or they may not even be in the emotional place to talk about solutions. And I think just offering your friendship and your support and letting a person know that, okay, I see that you're going through something difficult. I just want you to know that I'm here, and leave the door open for that person to come back and speak and or to communicate when they feel like they're best or better able to do so. I think sometimes, just thinking back in my life, some of the things that I have attempted to solve, or I've attempted to be the person with the solution, I've noticed that I might have contributed unknowingly to the problem because I was not allowing the person to ask for assistance when they wanted to. I wanted to give the assistance when I wanted to, as opposed to when the person might have needed it most. So again, all of these are tools and strategies that I have learned along the way and that I am still learning, because again, just because I have spent time studying these topics as it pertains to mental health, as it pertains to the emotional load, and all of those things that encompass those topics, that doesn't mean that I have mastered those topics, especially as I explained in previous episodes when it comes to navigating my own personal life. I think that it's interesting that a lot of the times, you ever see a friend going through something and then you say to yourself, or either even out loud, I could never, or that could never be me. I think we need to be careful with those assertions because, again, you never know what a person has dealt with that has brought them to whatever breaking point or to whatever low point you might be privy to seeing. I think sometimes we like to present or have this idea or this notion that we have it together more than we actually do. Because if you put anybody in a situation where their back is against the wall and they don't see a lot of options and they don't feel any support, you'll be surprised what a person might find themselves either doing or thinking or contemplating. And a lot of the times it might be something that is completely outside of their character or what you know their character to be. But again, anyone that finds themselves in the pressure cooker of life, which we all do from time to time, I think you will notice that if you look at your own life, I think there will be times when you can identify moments when you would have loved to have the unbiased or the listening ear of someone that was not going to be judgmental, or to have the shoulder of someone that was not going to point a finger or make you feel less than because you didn't have the emotional intelligence, or you didn't have the skills, or you didn't have the tools to navigate a situation that you might have thought that you could until, again, the situation presented itself. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about emotional load as well, outside of the fact that I'm a woman and I'm a mom, is that it can present itself in various different ways, especially navigating office politics and navigating racism and prejudice and things that you might have thought aren't things that we are still navigating. But I'm here to tell you that in 2025, these are things that we are very much still navigating, whether it is the quote unquote glass ceiling in a work setting where you are trying to get to the next level, and you notice that your other counterparts or colleagues in the office that are not a person of color, that they seem to be able to always be the person to get the opportunity or to get promoted. That creates an emotional load. And again, like I stated, this is not something that is unique to just women. It's something I know for a fact in speaking with brothers and family members that are male. They have stated that they are oftentimes so burdened by the emotional load in the workplace that a lot of times they don't even apply for the opportunity to take on more responsibility in the workplace, because they already know that the position 9 out of 10 times will be given either to person that is not a minority, or either is going to be given to a woman. And so, like I said, this idea of emotional load is not something that is just unique to the experience of women, but I wanted to explore it through my lens, because again, I can only genuinely explain it through my lived experience. And so for me, I know that I'm just going to be as transparent as possible. There are times when I am in a setting that is supposedly a relaxing setting, whether that is yoga or whether it is a brunch on a weekend afternoon. The ability for me to truly be present is often something that I struggle with, because as a mom, I am wondering, is my child okay? Is she sharing? Is she getting her needs met? Am I going to be able to leave here in amount of time to be able to get to where I need to get to? So all of these things are in my mind, but when I look around, everybody else seems to be able to be fully immersed in the moment. And I wonder sometimes when I'm in those settings, how many other women or people in general are navigating the most in their mind. Because again, as I stated, some of us are better at putting on a mask. And so some of us, whether we are at whatever event, might have put on our makeup, our jewelry, our outfit, and all of that is a look or can be a look. But a lot of the times I know I have utilized those things as armor because I feel, or my thought process is, well, if my outfit is how it needs to be and my hair and my makeup and my accessories are how they need to be, then maybe no one will see my inner turmoil. But people say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And so even though I might be laughing or doing my best to be present, someone that knows me well will probably scooch closer and they'll whisper, is everything okay? And in those moments, I realize that my armor isn't as bulletproof as I might have thought. And so I want to challenge us as we move into the weekend and as we continue to move through Black History Month, that we take time to be more empathetic to those that are around us. And even if a person doesn't feel comfortable expressing and explaining all that they may have endured or that they are currently navigating, that doesn't mean that that person isn't dealing with something. And so a lot of the times, like I said, my passion and or excitement or whatever is oftentimes interpreted as anger. When you see someone presenting or showing anger, you may want to take a step back and realize, okay, obviously this person is navigating a lot emotionally. And you might take a look at the setting and you might think, okay, well, this level of anger isn't equal to what is being displayed or isn't equal to whatever is the quote unquote catalyst. It might seem like the way in which a person is emoting is above and beyond. But again, what I want to challenge you to do is to pause before either inflaming the situation bigger or to look at the situation and not judge a person immediately. And I think that is easier said than done, again, especially in the heat of the moment. I just think that we can all do one another a service or a greater service if we take time to pause and not judge one another. Because again, all of us want to be able to move through the world and to feel understood and to feel seen and all of the rest. But particularly in the midst of a struggle or in the midst of difficulty, I think all of us, if we could try to put ourselves in the space of the person that it seems like they are doing the most, you might realize and understand that, okay, I don't always act my best and I don't always choose my words as wisely as I should. So I'm just suggesting that we give or offer more understanding to one another. I think I am going to wrap up this episode and leave it there because I think I've said enough. And if any of what I have said has resonated, take a moment to leave a comment, ask a question, and join the conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. And hopefully I will see you same place, same time next week for another episode of Red Lipstick Conversations. Again, I'm your host, Tasha Ray. Until next time, bye-bye.